Hey, welcome back to another episode of Addicted to Gear. Thank you for joining me once again. Today we're talking about digital multi-effects units. And the question of the day is, are you ready to ditch your amp for a digital multi-effects unit? Now, any of you out there that know me know how much I really love gear. I love beefy, saturated tube goodness that you can only get with a really nice amp rig being cranked so that the tubes are cooking. There's just something magical about harmonic distortion, the overtones amps provide, and reproducing this has been rather difficult to do accurately with digital effects. But there have been great improvements in digital modeling technology in the last little while, and it's trickling down to consumers. Prices are coming down, technology is getting better, and I would say over the last 10 years, companies like Axe FX, Roland, Kemper, Headrush, Line 6, there's a whole bunch of them, have been really hard at work trying to make improvements to this technology and push it forward. Now, I'll admit that although I've been using a real amp and pedal combo for the better part of 30 years now, I'm not necessarily a purist. I don't consider myself a purist, and I'm the type of person that would like to experiment with different technologies if it's better. You know, I'm not the type of person that will shun away from digital technology just because it doesn't have tubes. But I'll admit that till now, tubes did sound better than the digital technology. So I've tried various pedal and amp combinations as well as some pretty interesting modeling technology as far back as 10 to 20 years ago. Back then, the modeling technology was rather immature, I would say, at the time. And although it was fun to tinker with it, it didn't seem like it was ready to replace a real amp in a real gigging situation. Most of the time, the sounds were rather poor. Some of them were totally unusable. And I could clearly remember a few that were like, especially when it comes to overdrive and distortion, they basically sounded like bees in a tin can. You know, far from what we want to have in a live scenario. And, you know, we've come a long way since then. My first multi-effects unit was a Johnson J Station, if you remember those, kind of like pre-pod. It was a very small unit, and you can still probably find them on Reverb and other places used, maybe eBay. That was replaced by the kidney-shaped Line 6 pod. Eventually, I went to a more sophisticated Boss GT8, and that was eventually phased out and replaced with the GT10 that I purchased. And further down the road, I picked up Line 6 HD 500. And now, today, I have a Headrush FX. And I've even dabbled with some software-based modeling solutions that are out there, like Overloud by TH3, Guitar Rig. So a few more that I don't even remember the titles of. And they were all fun to use. They're, you know, at a given point in time, they have their place, and you know, it's an interesting thing to play around with, but none of them ever convinced me to ditch my amp and pedal rig. Now, this past spring, after trading some gear, I landed a Headrush multi-effects unit that I was quite curious about. I mean, I was looking at some reviews online and it seemed like it was a pretty interesting unit, so I decided it was about time to give it another go and see where multi-effects units were these days and what they were offering. Full disclosure, I knew I would once again be jumping down that rabbit hole and spending way too much time tinkering with rigs, tweaking sounds, downloading IRs, and I was a little reluctant to reintroduce a tool that I knew would ultimately suck the already limited time I had and the time that I should otherwise be spending practicing, especially when the rig, the amplifiers I had, and the pedals I have were already doing a good job. But my curiosity got the best of me, so I ended up getting it. So fast forward to about a month after introducing this multi-effects unit, and here are some of my observations so far. I mean, I'm not trying to convince anyone out there to switch to digital. I'm not trying to convince you to sell off your gear. I'm mainly just sharing my observations as to where things are at this point in time between digital effects and real amplifiers and pedals. So first, the multi-effects technology has definitely come a long way compared to even the Line 6 HD 500 that, you know, is not that old, but it definitely has come a long way, and it continues to evolve in a good way. It's clearly making the lives of gigging musicians much easier, and it's offering us quite a bit of additional flexibility and choice when it comes to sound and the way we want to use those sounds and how we want to use those sounds for a rig solution, and ultimately getting to the sounds that we hear in our head that we're actually always searching for. All of the units that are on the market today obviously have a learning curve associated to them, and unless you're comfortable with this technology and technologies such as IRs, modeling interfaces, firmware updates, etc., it might not be the solution for everyone. On the other hand, most of the up-and-coming guitarists these days are quite comfortable with new technology, and I really don't think they would have any issues adapting to it quickly. So how does a multi-effects unit actually change the gigging scenario? First, it's much more convenient to carry a relatively light multi-effects unit that can hold multiple amp simulations as well as hundreds of effects in one easy-to-carry unit. No patch cords, no power supply to worry about. Setlists can be programmed for easy recall at the touch of a button. No more tinkering between songs to get that sound. And most units even come with built-in tuners, expression pedals, so you even have fewer things to buy and lug around with you. Now the Headrush, as well as the other units I mentioned earlier, offer many different ways to plug into your rig or signal chain. For example, it can be used as a simple pedal board where the amp simulations within the unit are totally bypassed. So you can plug right into your favorite amplifier if you prefer to have an amplifier digital hybrid. It can also be plugged in directly to a PA system or to the front of the house when you're playing live, so you get consistent, repeatable stereo sound. Of course, you can always use headphones for practicing. I love this feature because I can practice late at night. It doesn't disturb my wife or kids, and I can play whenever I get the urge or get the inspiration. And of course, the best part is that you can take full advantage of all these very nice, lush stereo modulation effects that require more gear to achieve with a common mono amp setup. With headphones, very easy to do. So let's get right down to the point. Will a modern digital multi-effects unit make you ditch your amp and pedal rig? Now, if we're being honest, I think the answer to this is probably it's just a matter of time. Convenience and portability is a big factor to consider, especially as you get older. No one enjoys having to lug around a heavy amp cabinet, a head unit, pedals, or cables, one or two guitars to gigs. And I, for one, have been trying to lighten my rig setup for years. I don't want to sacrifice my tone when I do it, but I definitely do want to get something that is easy to carry and set up. You can basically set up a multi-effects unit in a matter of minutes and you're ready to go. And musicians that fly to gigs are especially pleased with the portability of this new technology. The cost associated with some of these multi-effects units also plays an important factor in the final purchasing decision. Let's face it, not all of us can afford a multi-effects unit that costs upwards of $2,000, but if you factor in the cost of your amp, multiple pedals, maybe even multiple amps, tubes, replacing tubes, speakers, patch cables, power supplies, etc., you can easily get up to around the same price. Although I can't speak for all of you out there, for me, I honestly think that we're moving one step closer towards the digital realm with every passing year. And although there will always be room for real amps out there, the processing power and convenience of digital multi-effects units will outweigh the traditional mono amps in the very near future. Now, ultimately, it's all about tone. And if it sounds good, then it's good. Modeling multi-effects units can now basically clone your favorite rig or cabinet with IRs and other technology fairly accurately. It's becoming harder and harder to distinguish the difference between them, especially in live situations. Even more interesting is that these units are also starting to feel like actual real amplifiers. The dynamics that you normally get just by rolling down the volume knob can be reproduced with startling accuracy and will probably only get better moving forward. Now, I'm truly enjoying my Headrush so far. Although it might not be the best solution or the only solution out there, it fits into my current rig requirements quite nicely. As someone who's always chasing tone, it's definitely slowed down my amp and pedal acquisition syndrome in the past few weeks and saved me some time and money also in the process. Now, I haven't ditched my Friedman, my Brunetti amplifier, my Fender amplifiers yet, but they are definitely getting less playing time now that the Headrush is in the house. I was quite convinced that I would probably flip the unit within a few weeks as I grew tired or frustrated with it, but it's been a pleasure to use in both live situations as well as in the studio, and I'm finding it hard to let it go, honestly. Doesn't mean that something better won't come along or something that will catch my attention won't come around the corner in the near future, but for now it's staying put. So if you've been toying with the idea of going digital, or if the mere thought of digital effects makes you gag, let me know your thoughts. Leave your comments below. Comment in the section below so that all of our viewers can know what you feel about it. And maybe you've made the switch many years ago. Maybe you're looking at doing so. Maybe you will never switch to digital. But either way, I'd like to hear your comments. So please feel free to comment below. Now, if you guys haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe because there's going to be more great stuff coming your way. If you want to be notified when I post a new video, just hit the little bell. If you enjoy this topic, give us some thumbs up. If you don't like it, give me a thumbs down. Either way, I appreciate you guys tuning in. And as I always say, guys, stay tuned and keep rocking. There will be more great stuff coming your way.